Good morning. Our verses today cover an instance where Jesus and his followers needed nourishment. They needed some food. And so they plucked some grain from some stalks in a field and they were eating it. But because it was done on the Sabbath, the hyper-religious Pharisees said it was sinful. It was the same as work. Thus, it was not permitted. And it was wrong. And they were in sin. Don't forget, Israel was commanded under the Mosaic law to remember to rest on the Sabbath and to keep it holy. And it was a practice that was meant as a gift for them. It was for their benefit and it was for their good. And it honored God, who even rested himself on the seventh day of creation. Now we know that it was not because he was tired, but because he had finished his work. However, the Pharisees had added rules and regulations to the laws of God as if only they could prevent disobedience. They were the only ones wise enough to help prevent it by encumbering people with more and more layers of man-made restrictions on top of God's law. They even equated their new additions with what God himself had given to them, which was incredibly misguided. So by Jesus and his followers being hungry and simply picking some grain from some stalks to eat, the Pharisees considered it wrong. It was not permitted on that particular day. And they were sticklers for rules and regulations, even the ones they heaped on top of God's law. But they neglected the heart and the purpose of God's commands. Now, thankfully, Jesus had something to say to them about this. He reminds them of Scripture and of God's anointed one, David, and his eating of the temple bread, which was technically only lawful for priests to eat, but it served a practical need for David and those who were with him as he was being pursued by Saul. Just as the grain served a practical need as well. One of hunger for Jesus and his disciples that day. David had not sinned, and neither did Jesus or his disciples. Now, his explanation here, what Jesus said, makes it all clear. He says the Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. So then the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. Through this explanation, we learn that the only law they broke was the Pharisees' very wrong interpretation of God's law. The Sabbath was made for man's benefit, not for man to be burdened. It was also the Pharisees who had tried to criticize Jesus for even healing on the Sabbath. And Jesus called them out then too. And he asked them, which is better to do on the Sabbath, good or evil? And the answer is obvious. In addition, Jesus, he lets them know the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. So Jesus, the God-man, gave this law concerning the Sabbath and all laws, in fact. He created each day of the week, and he created all things. He is Lord over everything, and this includes the Sabbath. So he is the only one who has the right and authority to interpret it correctly, and the Pharisees do not. And so Jesus makes it clear there. And as we read the Bible in Hebrews 4 and Matthew 5 and in Romans 10, we see that Jesus is our rest. Only in him can we truly find real Sabbath rest. He has done the work for us. He has accomplished all that is needed for salvation, and he is the fulfillment of the law and prophets. Jesus has done all the heavy lifting so that we can enjoy his rest. And not just on one day. We honor his Sabbath rest by continually settling into his accomplished work of salvation by grace through faith, not of ourselves, not of works. It becomes this rhythm of resting in him throughout our days and our weeks and our months and all of our lives. I pray that has encouraged you this morning. And so let's go and live with that in our minds and our hearts.